The man training me on my first day is the same man I ghosted after our perfect date, and my probation score depends on him. He stands in the lobby of Halcyon Tech Park holding an onboarding folder, and he says my name like it belongs to a stranger. Delaney? My heart misfires. My lungs lock. Everything inside me tries to reverse out of my body and disappear into the polished marble, because it's him. The same warm brown eyes. The same jawline that makes you believe in symmetry. The same tiny dimple that appears when he's about to say something gentle. 3 weeks ago, I ran from those eyes so fast I didn't even leave footprints. I didn't send a message. I didn't offer an explanation. I didn't do the bare minimum thing a decent adult does when they change their mind. I erased him. And now he's in front of me, dressed in a dark button-down and a lanyard like he belongs here the way I'm trying to belong here. And he's holding the one folder that proves I'm the new hire. This cannot be real. This has to be the universe playing some elaborate prank just to see if I'll cry in public. He looks down at the paperwork again, not because he needs to check, but because he's giving himself a half second to control his face. Then he holds out his hand. Professional posture, professional smile. Not a single crack in his composure. I'm Joseph, he says. I'll be your trainer for the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 14 days. In my head, the math turns into a prison sentence. 2 weeks of sitting across from the man I ghosted. 2 weeks of him explaining systems and watching me learn while I try not to dissolve into shame. 2 weeks of being reminded over and over that I ran from something good because good things make me panic. My hand finds his automatically. My fingers are cold. His grip is firm, warm, careful. Exactly like it was when he helped me with my coat at that Italian place downtown. Exactly like it was when he touched my arm while laughing about the time he tried to learn guitar and ended up with sore fingers and wounded pride. Exactly like it was when he walked me to my car and put his hand at the small of my back. Like he wanted me to be safe more than he wanted to look cool. And exactly like it was when he looked into my eyes and said the words that made me feel seen in a way that scared me. I feel like I've been waiting for someone like you. I unmatched him the next morning. No goodbye. No courtesy. Just gone. I start because I'm an adult and adults speak, but my voice comes out like sandpaper. Yes, that's me. Delaney. He nods as if we've never met, as if my face hasn't been haunting a corner of his memory for 3 weeks. Great, he says, pleasantly neutral. Follow me. I'll get you set up. He turns toward the elevators. I follow because I have absolutely no other choice. Because I spent 6 months applying for this role. Because I survived 4 rounds of interviews. Because I quit my old job for this. Because I moved across the state for this. Because I broke my lease and paid the penalty for this. Because I told everyone I know that I'm finally doing something big with my life. Because if I turn around and sprint out of this building, I will be the same girl I've always been. The one who runs when things get hard. The elevator doors slide closed behind us. It's just the two of us in a metal box with mirrored walls and the kind of silence that makes every swallow sound loud. I stare at the numbers climbing on the digital display like the right combination might set me free. 3, 4, 5. Joseph doesn't look at me. He doesn't mention the date. He doesn't ask why I disappeared without a word. For a brief, desperate moment, I let myself believe a miracle is happening. Maybe he doesn't recognize me. Maybe the lighting is different. Maybe I look like every other brunette in business casual pants. Maybe I'm not memorable. The elevator chimes on 7. He steps out first. I follow. This way, he says. And then, without turning around, he adds one sentence that proves he remembers everything. 14A, he says softly. Still your seat? My stomach drops so hard I swear my body forgets where gravity is. 14A. On our date, I told him I always pick 14A when I can. Window seat, wing view. The world shrinking under me while I pretend my problems are shrinking too. I told him that because he asked the kind of question that makes you forget you're guarding your heart. What's a small thing that makes you feel safe? And I answered like I trusted him. He leads me down the corridor to a desk positioned beside floor-to-ceiling windows. The city stretches out below, crisp and bright, streets like lines on a map, tiny cars like moving beads, people so far away they can't judge me. I don't know if this is kindness or cruelty, a thoughtful gesture or a pointed reminder. Maybe it's both. He places the folder on my desk. Your login credentials are inside. Training starts in 15 minutes. Conference room B, second door on the left. Okay, I manage. He hesitates like he might say something else. Then he straightens, returns to the version of himself that belongs to the building, and walks away without another word. No small talk, no pleasantries, just business. I sit down slowly, like my legs might give out if I move too fast. I open the folder with hands that shake. There's a schedule inside, a checklist, a diagram of the org chart, and a laminated badge holder that says new hire in cheerful letters. Joseph's name appears on nearly every line. Session, core systems overview, Joseph Spencer. Session, client escalations, Joseph Spencer. Session, policy and compliance, Joseph Spencer. And then I see the line at the bottom. Bold. Highlighted in yellow. Impossible to ignore. Performance review. End of week 2. Minimum score 85%. Failure results in immediate termination. Status. Not eligible for rehire for 12 months. My mouth goes dry. Not eligible for rehire. It's not just losing the job. It's being stamped with a silent warning that follows you around like a bad smell. I moved here with a fresh lease, a fresh start, and a fresh lie I told myself about being someone new. I cannot fail. My phone is already in my hand before I realize I picked it up. I open my messages and tap my best friend's name, Kendra. She answers faster than a person should at 8:30 in the morning. I type emergency, code red. The bubble appears immediately. What now? Remember the guy I ghosted? The perfect date guy? The one you said was too good and you panicked and ran? Yes. He's my trainer at the new job. There's a long pause like my words broke her brain. Then Delaney. Then, you're kidding. Then, are you sure? He remembered 14A. Then, oh no. Oh yes. Kendra sends a voice memo. I play it with one earbud in, the other ear scanning the office like someone might arrest me for being messy. Okay, Kendra says, breathing like she's trying to stay calm for me. Okay, you are not doomed. This is not a cosmic punishment. This is just a really inconvenient coincidence. It doesn't feel like a coincidence, I type. Listen, she says in another memo. You don't get to run. You wanted a new life, right? This is it. The new life where you handle things like an adult. You apologize, you work hard, you do the job, and you do not, repeat, do not self-sabotage your career because you're embarrassed. I swallow. Because she's right. And also because my entire life has been a series of situations where I swear I'll do better and then I panic and choose the fastest exit. I put my phone face down and stare at the window until the world looks slightly less like it's tilting. 15 minutes later, I'm in conference room B, sitting in the back row like proximity might be contagious. There are 4 other new hires. Preston, a guy with perfect hair who checks his reflection in his phone screen like it's a heartbeat monitor. Maddie, who already has a notebook open and has asked 2 questions before the training officially starts. Trevor, quiet in the corner, hoodie under a blazer, eyes down like he's trying to disappear into the carpet. And Alyssa, who smiles at me like we're going to be friends, which would be comforting if my internal organs weren't currently doing gymnastics. Joseph stands at the front of the room beside a whiteboard. He picks up a marker. "Welcome to Halcyon Tech," he says, voice steady. "I'm going to be honest. The next 2 weeks will be intense." He writes 3 words in bold capital letters. Learn, ask, adapt. These aren't motivational, he says. They're survival. He scans the room. His eyes land on me for a fraction of a second. Not lingering. Not dramatic. But there is something there, a flicker of recognition, and something that looks like restrained hurt. Then his gaze moves on like he's trained himself to be fair. "You'll have a performance review at the end of week 2, he continues. "Minimum score is 85%. That's not negotiable. If you're struggling, speak up early. The worst thing you can do is pretend you're fine until you're not." He pauses on that last sentence like it means something to him. Like it's personal. The training begins. Screen share, systems, ticket queues, client categories, escalation tiers. And I am truly trying to focus. But shame is loud. Every time Joseph says "great question," I hear "you couldn't send a text." Every time he says "you're doing fine," I hear "you ran." By lunchtime, my brain feels like it has been through a blender. I take my salad to an empty corner and chew without tasting. My phone vibrates. "Kendra, how's he acting?" I type "professional." Too professional, like we're strangers. "Kendra, that's better than him being petty." I stare at my screen. Because the truth is, I don't want petty. I want something that tells me I didn't ruin a good thing permanently. I want proof that people can be wrong and still be forgiven. But forgiveness is a privilege, not a guarantee. By the second afternoon, my manager asks for a check-in. Her name is Reagan Whitmore, and she has the kind of sharp eyes that make you sit up straighter without knowing why. She doesn't waste time on small talk. She gestures to a chair and taps a chart on her tablet. "I've reviewed your first day metrics," she says. "You're solid, not exceptional yet." The word "yet" hangs like a challenge. "I'm learning," I say carefully. "Good, because I need you to be exceptional quickly." She slides the tablet toward me. "This role is visible. Clients get your name. Leadership sees your escalations. We can't carry average." I understand. The minimum score for probation is 85. That's the line. But I don't hire people to barely clear lines. She leans back, fingers steepled. "I hired you because your interview suggested you're a top performer who's been underutilized." My throat tightens. Seen. Again. It's that same terrifying feeling. "I want to prove that," I say. "Then treat these 2 weeks like you're building a reputation you'll still be living in a year from now." Her eyes narrow slightly. "Also, I need you to be aware of policy." I blink. "Policy?" "Workplace relationships," Reagan says, voice even. "It shouldn't have to be said, but it does. During training and probation, there are no personal entanglements, no optics problems, no private meetings without documentation. If you need extra support, it goes on the calendar. It's recorded. It's transparent." My stomach flips. Of course," I say quickly. "I'm here to work." "Good." Reagan stands. "Joseph is our best trainer. His trainees have the highest pass rate. Use the resource. Ask questions. Don't be proud." As I leave her office, the words "workplace relationships" echo in my head like a warning siren. Of course there is a policy. Of course the universe decided my personal mess would intersect with corporate compliance. When I walk back into the training room, Joseph is already setting up the next module. He glances at me, then at the clock, and then back to the screen, like he's trying to keep himself contained in neutral territory. The first rumors start on day 3. Not big rumors. Not the kind that destroy careers. Little things. In the team chat, Maddie asks a question. Joseph answers. Alyssa adds a follow-up. Joseph answers. I ask a question about exceptions in the escalation flow. Joseph answers without hesitation, detailed and calm. A reaction appears under his message. A flame emoji, then another, then a heart. Preston leans back in his chair and smirks like he's watching a show. I stare at the screen in horror. These are work messages. This is compliance training. Why is anyone reacting like we're flirting? My direct messages ping. Preston. "So, you and Joseph." I type back, "There is no me and Joseph." Preston, "Sure, the whole floor can feel it." Me. "Feel what?" Preston, "The tension, the eye contact, the way he remembers what you say." My chest tightens. He remembers what you say. That's the point. That's the problem. I close the chat window like I can shut down the conversation by force. By day 5, the office had turned my discomfort into entertainment. It started as reactions in chat, but then someone decided to get creative. A poll appeared in the general channel right after lunch. Best workplace ship of the quarter. A, Joseph and Delaney. B, Joseph and Delaney, but make it dramatic. C, I already wrote the fanfiction. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might actually be sick. Within seconds, votes popped in. Alyssa reacted with a shocked face. Maddie reacted with a laughing emoji, then immediately deleted it like she realized it wasn't funny when it involved a real person. Preston replied, "Option C is the only correct option," which I wanted to scream at. Then the poll vanished. A new message appeared from Mallory in HR. Different Mallory than my friend's name, because apparently the universe enjoys recycling my panic triggers. Mallory, HR. Reminder, romantic speculation about coworkers is inappropriate and violates our conduct policy. Please keep channels professional. The chat went silent for exactly 3 minutes. Then someone posted a gif of a cat wearing a tie. As if that reset everything. I sat at my desk staring at my screen, hands clenched under the table. Because now it wasn't just whispers. It was public enough that HR saw it. Joseph walked past my desk a few minutes later. He didn't look at me, but his jaw was tight, like he'd bitten down on something he wanted to say. At the end of the day, as people filed out, I caught Preston near the elevators. "Was that you?" I asked, voice low. He blinked innocently. "Was what me?" "The poll," I said. My cheeks burned. Was that you? Preston held up his hands. Okay, first of all, it was funny. Second of all, no, I'm not that bold. But everyone's thinking it. Everyone's thinking what? I snapped. That I'm here to date my trainer? That I move cities for an office romance? That I'm risking my job for gossip? His expression shifted like he hadn't considered the real consequences. I'm just saying the vibe is there, he said. You can't blame people for noticing. Yes, I said, steady now. I can, because noticing doesn't give anyone permission to turn me into a storyline. Preston opened his mouth, then closed it. He nodded once, less smug. Okay, he said. Fair, I won't feed it. It wasn't an apology exactly, but it was the first time all week I saw him look at me like a person instead of a plot. I went home that night and stared at my ceiling again, the way I did after my date with Joseph. Different fear, same tightness in my chest. Because the old pattern wasn't just run from love. It was run from being seen. And now, in a building full of people with opinions, I had nowhere to hide. But the reactions keep appearing. A ship emoji under a message where Joseph says, make sure you document client commitments. A smirking face under a message where I say, got it. It's ridiculous. And yet it's dangerous, because office culture takes small things and turns them into stories. By the end of day 3, I'm behind. Not catastrophically, but enough that my confidence starts to wobble. I can feel it in my answers, the hesitation, the second guessing. On a mock call simulation, I choose the wrong response twice. My score flashes red. I correct, recover, then trip again. Joseph walks past my desk. He pauses, not hovering, just noticing. You okay? He asks quietly. I'm fine, I say too fast. He doesn't argue. He just nods once and moves on. But I feel his presence like a question I'm not answering. That night, in my half-unpacked apartment, I try to study, but my brain keeps jumping backward. 3 weeks ago, my old job smelled like burnt coffee and resignation. I worked under a manager named Harrison who collected credit the way some people collect stamps. Every project I led became his story. Every client issue I solved became his leadership. Every good idea I had became his slide deck. Harrison wasn't openly cruel. That would have been easier. Cruelty is simple. You can point at it and say, that's wrong. Harrison was smoother than that. He complimented you in private and undercut you in meetings. He called you a rock star and then left your name off the deck. He'd forward your work to leadership with a subject line that said, my thoughts. Like your hours belonged to him by default. The last month I worked there, I led a client rescue that should have been a career highlight. A major account threatened to walk after an implementation issue that wasn't even our fault. I stayed late for 3 nights in a row, building an escalation plan, pulling logs, coordinating with engineering, rewriting timelines, and getting the client to trust us again. On Friday, Harrison walked into the final call, smiled like a politician and said, I've been working closely with Delaney on this. Then he spent the next 30 minutes presenting my plan like it was his. When the client praised the clarity, he took the compliment without blinking. After the call, I confronted him in the hallway outside the conference room. My hands were shaking, but my voice didn't. I wrote that, I said. You know I did. Harrison gave me a patient smile like I was a toddler insisting the sky was green. And I acknowledged you, he said. I said we worked on it together. You didn't, I said. You watched me do it. He leaned closer, dropping his voice. Delaney, he said, this is how it works. Leaders represent the team. If you want credit, you earn influence. I earned it, I said. You took it. His smile hardened. Be careful. This industry is smaller than you think. I went back to my desk and sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection in my dark monitor. I realized something that day. I wasn't going to become the version of myself I wanted by staying in a place that taught me invisibility. So when Halcyon called, I didn't just accept because of the salary increase. I accepted because I wanted out of Harrison's shadow. And I accepted because even though it terrified me, I wanted to prove I could walk into a new building and be seen without flinching. I didn't quit because I couldn't handle work. I quit because I couldn't handle being invisible. So when Halcyon's recruiter called after I applied at 2 in the morning on a bad day, I said yes before she finished explaining the benefits. Senior Client Success Specialist, 30% salary increase, growth track, real responsibility, a chance to be seen for the right reasons. I signed a lease in a city I barely knew. I packed boxes until my hands were raw. I told myself I was brave. And somewhere in the chaos, I downloaded a dating app. Not to find love, not seriously, just to prove I could meet someone and not make it a disaster. Joseph's profile made me laugh in my half-empty kitchen. I make a mean grilled cheese, his bio said, and I have never lost at Scrabble, looking for someone willing to ruin my winning streak. It was confident without being arrogant. Funny without being a performance. We matched instantly. 2 days of messages that made time disappear. He asked me what kind of music I listen to when I'm nervous. He asked me what I do when I can't sleep. He asked me what my dream Saturday looks like if money isn't a factor. No one asks questions like that unless they're either very good at pretending to care or they actually care. He suggested dinner at a small Italian place he loved. Candlelight. Quiet enough to talk. Loud enough to feel alive. The date was perfect. And that was exactly the problem. Because perfection makes my brain panic. He listened when I talked. Actually listened. He didn't glance at his phone. He didn't look over my shoulder for a better option. He laughed like he meant it. He remembered things I said 10 minutes earlier and brought them back in a way that made me feel important. When I told him about the job offer and the move, he leaned back and smiled. That's brave, he said. Most people talk about change forever. You're actually doing it. And something in me cracked open. Not in a romantic movie way, in a terrified way. Because I've been the girl who falls fast and lands hard. I've been the girl who mistakes attention for safety. My last relationship was with a man named Tanner. Tanner who was charming for 6 months. Tanner who called me special in that sweet voice that made me believe him. Tanner who slowly started criticizing me like it was normal. My laugh was too loud. My friends were a bad influence. My job was cute, but not a career. And then, at the worst possible moment, he ended it in a single text while I was at my grandmother's funeral. I still remember standing in the cemetery with my phone buzzing in my hand, the screen bright against the gray day. I think we should see other people. That was it. No conversation, no respect, no closure, just gone. So when Joseph walked me to my car after dinner and told me he'd been waiting for someone like me, my brain didn't hear romance. It heard danger. It heard, this is the part before it turns. I drove home and stared at my ceiling for hours, replaying the date and searching for red flags that weren't there. I convinced myself no one is that genuine. No one is that kind. No one is that safe. There has to be a catch. And the next morning at 7:15, I unmatched him. No message. No explanation. Just a clean cut. I told myself it was because I was moving, because I needed to focus, because I didn't have time for dating. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I ran because it felt like the only way to stay in control. Now, on day 4, control has left the building entirely. Joseph is still professional, still calm, still helpful, which makes it worse because it means he could have been real. All of it. The man who told me he keeps his sister's wedding invitation on his fridge because it makes him smile. The man who admitted he wants to hike the Appalachian Trail someday but keeps talking himself out of it. The man who made me laugh until I forgot I was afraid. He could have been real. And I treated him like he wasn't. By the end of the first week, my scores are good. Reagan's least favorite word. She stops by my desk and glances at my screen. You're improving, she says, but you're still hesitating. I try to smile. I'm just being careful. Careful can be a mask, she says. Don't wear it during your review. Then she walks away, leaving me with my reflection in the window and my own doubts staring back. That afternoon, I fail a mock escalation simulation twice in a row. Red X, red X. My chest tightens. Joseph appears beside my desk like he sensed the panic. Delaney, he says quietly, you need help. I'm fine. He exhales, a slow, controlled breath. You're not, and I'm not going to let you pretend. He glances around the floor. Conference room C. After work, 15 minutes. We'll keep it on the calendar. Documented. My stomach flips at the word documented. Because the policy Reagan mentioned is real, and the rumors are already a spark. Okay, I say because I don't have room for pride. He nods once and walks away. My phone buzzes. Kendra, how are your scores? I type, I might need extra sessions, he offered. Kendra, document everything. Keep it clean. And be honest with him. I stare at the last sentence until my eyes blur. Be honest with him. Honesty is the thing I avoided when I ghosted him. Honesty is the thing that would have made me brave. After work, conference room C feels like a confession booth. The blinds are open. The lights are bright. The door is propped with a chair like we're making sure the universe can see we're doing nothing wrong. Joseph sits at the table with his laptop open. He looks up when I walk in. Sit, he says. I sit. He doesn't start with small talk. He doesn't ask about my apartment. He doesn't pretend we're only here to talk about training. He looks at me, eyes steady, and asks the question I've been dreading since the lobby. Why did you do it? My throat tightens. Do what? He doesn't let me hide. Ghost me, he says. After what felt like a real connection. After you let me walk you to your car. After you let me say something that mattered. Why did you disappear without a word? The shame hits like heat. I could lie. I could say I was busy. I could blame the move. I could say I lost my phone. But lying is what brought me here. Lying by omission. Lying by silence. And I'm tired. Because you scared me, I say. His eyebrows pull together. I scared you? Not like you did something wrong. I rush to clarify. Not like you pressured me or crossed a line. You were kind. You were genuine. You felt real. And that scared me because real things have hurt me. He leans back slightly, processing. That still doesn't make sense, he says softly. It does if you've been burned, I say. It does if you've learned that good things are the part right before they get taken away. His expression shifts just a fraction, like the words hit a place he recognizes. I take a breath, forcing myself to stay in the room. My last relationship ended badly, I say. His name was Tanner. He was charming and attentive and said all the right things until he didn't. He slowly made me feel small, and then he broke up with me over text while I was at my grandmother's funeral. Joseph's face changes. Not dramatic, not pity, just something like anger on my behalf. I'm sorry, he says. And the words sound clean, honest. Thank you, I say. And when you told me you'd been waiting for someone like me, my brain did this stupid thing where it replayed everything Tanner ever said before it got worse. I didn't trust it. I didn't trust myself. So you ran, he says. Yes, I admit. I ran, and I did it in the worst way possible. I know. I hate that I did it. I've hated it every day since. I expect him to be angry. I expect him to tell me I'm immature, selfish, cruel. Instead, he lets out a breath that sounds like he's been holding it for weeks. I get it, he says. I blink. You do? He nods once. Because I did something similar 2 years ago. My mouth parts in shock. You ghosted someone? He winces slightly like the memory is uncomfortable. Yeah, her name was Peyton. 3rd date. She told me she could see a future with me, and I freaked out. My relationship before that ended with cheating. It messed me up in ways I didn't realize. So I did the coward thing. I stopped responding. Changed my schedule. Deleted the app. Pretended she didn't exist. I stare at him. Joseph Spencer, the calm trainer with the steady voice and the professional smile. You seem so together, I say. Now, he says. Not then. Therapy helped. Time helped. Shame helped, honestly. I didn't like who I was when I ran. His words land in my chest. Because that's exactly what I've been feeling. I'm not trying to make excuses, I say quickly. I know I hurt you. I know, he says. I was angry for about a week. I reread our messages and wondered what I did wrong. Then I recognized fear. The same fear I had with Peyton. And I couldn't stay angry at something I understood. We sit in silence for a moment. The air feels different. Lighter. Like the truth made space. Then Joseph's voice turns practical. Okay, he says. We have to be smart. About training, I say. About everything, he corrects. Policy is clear. During probation, there are no personal situations, no appearances, no misunderstandings. If we do extra sessions, they're documented. Door stays open, calendar invite, notes. I nod quickly, yes. And, he adds, eyes steady, we keep it professional. You're here to pass. I want you to pass. Your performance needs to be unquestionable. My throat tightens again, but this time it isn't shame. It's something like relief. Okay, I say, I can do that. You can, he says, firm. But you have to stop second-guessing yourself. You know more than you think. Your hesitation is your weakness, not your intelligence. He opens his laptop. Now, he says, show me where you're getting stuck. The next week is brutal in the best way. Joseph is not gentle. He is patient, but he is relentless. We meet at 7 in the morning twice. With the session on the calendar and the conference room door propped open like we're staging our own compliance commercial. We stay late 2 nights with documentation and checklists and no room for ambiguity. He drills me on scenarios until my brain feels like it's been rewired. He makes me explain my choices out loud, which is humiliating and also exactly what I need, because hearing my own reasoning reminds me I'm not stupid. I'm just scared. When I freeze, he doesn't rescue me. He waits. Talk, he says. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I'm wrong, I admit once, voice small. He tilts his head. And what evidence do you have? I swallow. None. Exactly, he says. Your fear is loud, your data is quiet, learn to listen to the data. It should feel like a lecture. It doesn't. It feels like someone finally refusing to let me lie to myself. By the middle of week 2, something shifts. I pass the escalation simulation 5 times in a row without a single mistake. My score flashes green. 90, 92, 94. Joseph watches from the side. When I finish, he gives me a small nod. No celebration, no praise that feels like flirting. Just acknowledgement. And it makes my chest ache because I realize how much I want to earn his respect the right way. At lunch, Maddie drops into the chair across from me with a dramatic sigh. You're like a different person, she says. I blink. What do you mean? Last week, you looked like you were going to throw up every time Joseph walked by, she says. Now you look steady. I force a laugh that sounds too sharp. I'm just focusing. Maddie leans in, voice dropping. Is it true? Are you too? No, I say immediately. Too loud. Alyssa looks up from her sandwich. Maddie raises her hands in surrender. Okay, I'm just saying the floor is obsessed. Why? I whisper. Why is everyone obsessed with this? Because training is boring, Alyssa says cheerfully. And because you two have chemistry. Like, the kind you can feel even when you're pretending you don't. My face burns. I stand up and throw my trash away just to have something to do with my hands. That afternoon, the room returns. It stops being silly. I'm walking into the bathroom when I hear voices. 2 women at the sinks laughing softly. I heard she's getting special sessions, one says. Of course she is, the other replies. How else would she improve that fast? Maybe she's improving in other ways, the first says, and they both laugh like it's harmless. My stomach drops. The second woman says, it's always the new girls. They come in and think the rules don't apply. My throat closes. I step into a stall and lock the door, breathing shallowly, trying not to make a sound. Because suddenly it's not about embarrassment. It's about my career. If Reagan hears this, it won't matter if I pass. It won't matter how hard I worked. People will rewrite my success as favoritism, as something dirty. My hands shake as I wash them afterward, staring at my own pale face in the mirror. I find Joseph in the break room later when it's empty. We have a problem, I whisper. He doesn't ask what. He just nods once like he already knows. I heard, he says quietly. What do we do? My voice cracks. If Reagan thinks, she won't, he says. Not if we're smart. We already are, I whisper. We documented everything. I know, he says, but people don't care about facts when stories are more entertaining. My stomach twists. Joseph looks at me, and for the first time in days, his professional mask slips a little. Delaney, he says, voice low. You're ready. You don't need more sessions. I still feel like I do, I admit. That's fear talking, he says. You've been ready since last week. The last obstacle isn't the material. It's your trust in yourself. I swallow hard. If we stop the sessions now, I say. I'm on my own. He nods. Yes. My chest tightens. And if I fail, you won't, he says, firm. And if you pass, it's clean. No one can say you were carried. No one can say anything except the truth, which is that I did the work. I nod slowly. Okay, I whisper. No more extra sessions. He exhales like he's relieved and worried at the same time. Good, he says. One more thing. What? We don't talk privately anymore unless it's documented. And after your review, if you pass, you and I will have a conversation about boundaries. My heart stutters. He sees it on my face and adds quickly, not like that. I mean, we need to be adults about what this is and what it isn't. I nod, forcing calm into my voice. Yes. He holds my gaze for a beat. Then he steps back into professional distance like he's building a wall on purpose. Go crush your review, he says. I walk back to my desk feeling like I'm carrying something heavy and fragile at the same time. After we stopped the extra sessions, Joseph kept his distance so carefully it almost hurt. He didn't linger near my desk. He didn't offer quiet check-ins. He didn't let his eyes find mine for too long. It was like watching someone build a fence one plank at a time. The first morning without our session, I arrived early and sat at my desk with my notes open, trying to force my mind into calm. A sticky note appeared beside my keyboard sometime before 9. No one had walked up. I would have noticed. I was jumpy as a rabbit. I glanced around the floor. Joseph was across the room talking to Dalton about something on a screen. He didn't look my way. The sticky note had one word on it, written in neat block letters. Data. My throat tightened. Not romantic. Not personal. Not a secret message. A reminder of the thing he'd taught me. Listen to what's true, not what you're afraid of. I took a deep breath and started another practice simulation on my own. My phone buzzed at lunch. Kendra, how are you holding up? I typed back. We stopped the extra sessions. Rumors got gross. Kendra, I'm proud of you. That's you choosing the hard thing. I stared at the words. Choosing the hard thing. That's what this was, over and over. Not one brave moment, a chain of them. I typed, I'm scared. Kendra, you can be scared and still do it. That's the whole point. The next day, Reagan calls me into her office. Her expression is unreadable. My stomach turns to ice. She gestures for me to sit, but doesn't sit herself. There have been concerns, she says. I swallow. About my training? About the optics around your training, she corrects. Specifically, you and Joseph. My mouth goes dry. There's nothing, I say quickly. We've kept everything professional. Extra sessions were documented. Door open. Calendar invites. Notes. Reagan watches me like she can see through my skin. I want to believe that, she says. But I have to protect the team. I have to protect the process. And I have to protect your reputation too, whether you realize it or not. My reputation, I echo, voice shaking. If you pass and people think you didn't earn it, that poisons you here, she says. It makes every success questionable. You don't want that. No, I don't. So, Reagan continues, your review will be observed by Dalton instead of Joseph. Dalton, another senior trainer, known for being blunt. My stomach drops, but I force my voice steady. That's fine, I say. I want it clean. Reagan studies me for a moment. Good, she says. Then let your performance speak. That night, I sit on my apartment floor with my laptop open and my notes spread out like a paper battlefield. I study until the words stop making sense. I make tea and forget to drink it. I pace my living room until my feet hurt. At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. My heart jolts. You're going to crush it tomorrow. I believe in you. Please sleep. No name. No emoji. Just the kind of message that feels like a hand on your back. I stare at it until my vision blurs. Then I set my phone down, turn off the lights, and force my breathing to slow. In, out. In, out. The next morning, I arrive early. Like being first might convince the universe I'm serious. Conference room A is bright and cold. Dalton sits in the corner with a clipboard. Reagan sits at the table with her tablet. An HR representative, Mallory, sits beside her with a laptop. 3 people who can decide whether my new life survives. Ready? Reagan asks. No. But I'm done running. Yes, I say. The review is grueling. Scenario after scenario. Angry clients, system failures, policy conflicts, edge cases designed to test whether you can think under pressure. My hands shake at first. Then I hear Joseph's voice in my head. Your fear is loud. Your data is quiet. Stop second guessing. Trust the work. So I do. I answer with calm. I document decisions. I de-escalate without giving away policy. I admit what I don't know and state how I'd find the answer. I don't perform. I just do the job. When the final scenario ends, Dalton sets his clipboard down. Reagan's expression doesn't change. We'll have results by end of day, she says. I nod. Then I walk back to my desk and stare at the skyline until time becomes something abstract. At 4:46, my computer pings. Email from Reagan. Subject, performance review results. My cursor hovers over it like it's a bomb. I click. Delaney. Congratulations. You passed probationary review with a score of 92%. Highest in your training cohort. Welcome to Halcyon. I expect continued growth. Reagan. I read it 3 times. 92. Highest. I did it. I didn't just survive. I proved myself. My hands tremble as I stand up. My legs feel like they belong to someone else. I find Joseph near the elevators at the end of the day. Jacket on, bag over his shoulder, ready to leave. Hey, I say. He turns. Hey, he replies, voice careful. I passed, I say. 92, highest in the cohort. His face changes instantly, like the news breaks through every wall he built. A real smile spreads across his mouth. Delaney, he says, genuine. That's incredible. I knew you could do it. My throat tightens. I couldn't have done it without you, I say. He shakes his head once, firm. You did it. I just pointed you toward what was already there. The elevator dings. People step out. People step in. The world continues like my life didn't just pivot. Joseph, I say, voice low. I need to say something. He nods. I'm sorry, I say. Not just for ghosting you, for not being brave enough to explain, for making you wonder what you did wrong, for erasing you like you didn't matter when you did. He listens without interrupting, which somehow makes it harder. I've spent so much of my life running from things that scare me, I continue. And you scared me because you were real, because you saw me, and being seen meant I could get hurt. He holds my gaze. And now? He asks. Now I'm trying to stop running, I say. I don't know if I'm good at it yet, but I'm trying. I'm choosing to stay. Joseph nods slowly. I accept your apology, he says. Relief hits me so hard I almost sway. Thank you, I whisper. He exhales. And now that probation is over, we can do what we should have done from the start. What's that? Be honest about boundaries, he says. During training, it had to be clean. Now it's still complicated. Same building, same team, but it's not prohibited. My heart stutters. He watches my face like he's waiting for me to run again. I force my feet to stay planted. So, I say, voice careful, what happens now? Joseph's smile returns, smaller and softer. Now, he says, we're just 2 people who happen to work in the same place. Just 2 people, I repeat. Unless, he says, and the word hangs. My breath catches. Unless what? Unless you'd like to get coffee, he says. As 2 people, not trainer and trainee, not a rumor. Just a second chance at a first impression. My chest aches. I think about 3 weeks ago, the way I ran from good because I didn't trust it. I think about today, the way I stayed. I'd like that, I say. He nods like he's been holding his breath too. Saturday? Saturday works, I say, and my voice doesn't shake this time. He grins. I know this great Italian place downtown. I laugh, the sound surprising me. The one with the grilled cheese? The one with the grilled cheese, he confirms. And the Scrabble opportunities. I should warn you, I say. I'm competitive. He lifts a brow. Good. I need someone willing to ruin my winning streak. The elevator arrives again. This time we step in together. The ride down is quiet, but it's not the suffocating silence of the first day. It's comfortable. Like a pause, not a punishment. When we reach the lobby, he holds the door for me. See you Monday, he says. See you Monday, I answer. I walk out into the evening air and stand for a moment on the sidewalk. The city is unfamiliar, but it doesn't feel hostile anymore. 2 weeks ago, I moved here believing I could outrun my own patterns. Turns out I couldn't outrun them. I had to face them. I get into my car and sit with my hands on the steering wheel, breathing slowly. My phone buzzes. Kendra. Well, I type passed. 92. Highest score. Kendra, I knew it. And Joseph, I type coffee Saturday. 3 dots appear. Then, Delaney. That's called growth. I'm proud of you. I smile and it feels real. Saturday arrives faster than I expect. All week, I keep my head down. I do my work. I let my performance speak. I ignore Preston's dramatic eyebrow wiggles. I nod politely at Alyssa and Maddie and pretend my cheeks don't heat every time someone says Joseph's name. Joseph stays professional. If anything, he becomes even more careful. If he passes my desk, he keeps his eyes forward. If I ask a question in chat, he answers like a textbook. If we end up in the same elevator, he leaves space between us like an invisible policy line still exists. And I understand why. Workplace stories don't disappear just because the truth is boring. On Saturday afternoon, I walk into the Italian restaurant with a knot in my stomach that feels suspiciously like the night of our first date. He's already there, sitting at the same small table near the window. Of course he chose the window. He stands when he sees me. Not dramatic, not performative, just respectful. Hey, he says. Hey, I answer, and I'm surprised by how steady my voice sounds. We sit. For a few seconds, we're quiet. Not the bad silence. The kind where 2 people are carefully setting down old baggage so it doesn't spill across the table. I want to start with one thing, Joseph says. No matter what happens between us, we keep work clean. I nod immediately. Agreed. No secret lunches, he continues, counting on his fingers like he's building a plan. No disappearing into conference rooms. No giving anyone a story. Agreed, I say again, and I mean it. I don't want my career to become a rumor, and I don't want yours to become a rumor either, he says. You earned your spot. I won't let anyone rewrite that. Something in my chest loosens. The waiter comes over. We order. When the waiter leaves, Joseph looks at me like he's trying to decide how honest to be. I didn't tell you this before, he says, but the reason I'm so strict about boundaries isn't just policy. My throat tightens. What do you mean? He rubs the back of his neck, a nervous gesture that doesn't match the calm version of him at work. A year ago, he says, a coworker got pulled into HR because someone decided to gossip about a mentorship. Nothing inappropriate happened, but it didn't matter. The rumor did damage anyway. Who, I ask? He hesitates. My friend Dawson. He's in product. Smart, kind, the type who can't imagine people would assume the worst. What happened, I ask? People whispered. Joseph says simply. Leadership questioned his judgment, and the person he mentored, who did nothing wrong, got labeled as the girl who uses men to get ahead. She left 3 months later, not because she couldn't do the job, because she was tired of fighting a story she didn't write. My stomach turns. That's horrible, I whisper. It is, he agrees. So when I saw the reactions in chat, I knew where it could go. I didn't want that for you. My eyes burn a little. Thank you, I say. He nods once, then shifts like he's trying to lighten the weight. Okay, he says. Now that we've made the adult plan, I have to ask, are you still competitive? I laugh softly. Unfortunately, yes. He reaches into his bag and pulls out a small travel Scrabble set, the kind that folds up into a square. He sets it on the table like he's presenting evidence. I stare. You brought Scrabble. I said I was undefeated, he says, mock serious. I'm not a liar. I shake my head, smiling despite myself. This is ridiculous. It's strategy. He corrects. If you beat me, it's destiny. If I beat you, it's still destiny, but I get to be smug. We play while we wait for our food. At first, it's light, teasing, the easy rhythm we had before fear got involved. Then, somewhere around my third word, Joseph's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen and his expression softens. My sister, he says. Tegan? I ask, remembering the name he told me on our first date. He looks up, surprised. You remembered. I did, I admit, and I feel something warm and strange in my chest. Is she okay? Yeah, he says, smiling. She's finalizing wedding stuff and panicking, so she texts me like I'm a full-time emotional support hotline. That's kind of sweet, I say. It is, he agrees. Also exhausting. Our food arrives. We eat, and the conversation slides into safer places. Favorite movies, bad apartment hacks, the weird things you learn moving to a new city. At some point, I realize my shoulders aren't up by my ears anymore. I'm not bracing for impact. I'm just here. Joseph watches me for a moment, then says, can I tell you something without it becoming a heavy moment? I nod. Yes. When you unmatched me, he says, I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I hadn't invested enough for it to hurt. My throat tightens. But it did, he admits. Not because you owed me anything, just because it felt rare. The way we talked, the way you laughed at my dumb grilled cheese joke like it was actually funny. It was funny, I say quietly. He smiles, then sobers again. And then, when you walked into the lobby, he continues, I had 2 instincts. One was to protect myself. The other was to protect your fresh start. I chose the second, but it wasn't effortless. I swallow. I know. I set my fork down. I'm not asking you to forget what I did, I say. I'm asking you to let me be different now. He holds my gaze. Then be different, he says. I nod, a small, decisive motion. I will, I promise. We finish dinner. We pack up the little Scrabble set. As we stand outside the restaurant, the city air cool against my cheeks, Joseph asks, do you want to do this again? Coffee again, I tease? He huffs a laugh. Yeah, coffee, food, whatever, just a normal second date. I inhale, and in that breath, I feel my old reflex, the instinct to run from good because it might turn. I let it pass. I do, I say. He smiles, and it's not the polished work smile. It's the one that reaches his eyes. Good, he says. Then we'll keep it simple. We'll keep it clean, and we'll see what happens. He doesn't reach for my hand. He doesn't push. He doesn't turn it into a grand moment. He just opens the car door for me like respect is a habit. And for the first time in a long time, I get in the car without feeling like I'm about to lose something. I feel like I'm finally choosing it. I start the engine. The sky is streaked with gold and pink over the skyline, like the day is offering me a clean ending. And for once, I let myself believe I deserve it.